Hello, welcome to the second part. Bienvenidos y bienvenidas a la segunda parte de esta amena conversa. This fun, nice conversation with this gentleman, John Dyson and Paul Ward.
Cheers.
Yeah. Bon appetit.
You have to have a biscuit. It's very England. Very England.
Very good. Now, how meaningful are to you the music festivals as a platform to success and wider audiences? You know, the Lotus Electronica 86 or 84, the UK Electronica, Clem, there are so many others. I think that they were really meaningful in your career.
Oh, they were. Yeah, they were very important. And the very first time we played in the Netherlands at Clem, the audience just took to our music. They really loved it, and I think Ron's business partner, Case, he was called. I think he said he was sat in the restaurant with his wife when we started playing, and they left their meal, and he said, "I cannot miss this."
Wow.
And they left their meal and came to listen to the concert. So that was an example of how well our music was received, which was great. And they're all lovely people over there, really nice people. Yes, it was very important.
And what was the latest occasion you've been playing in the festival? 2019, I suppose, before the pandemic, 2020?
I think.
What was the last one? Was it?
Well, 2015 we played at the Electronic Circus in Detmold in Deutschland.
Okay.
Did we
Was the last one? It was in this country, wasn't it?
We played Escape for David Wright of AD Music. I think the last live concert was 2018.
Okay. But do you usually play festivals, or can you have a good number? You know, can you bring lots of people if you just have two acts or Wavestar alone? I don't know. I ask it because, again, here electronic music would be really difficult to promote and to get many people attending. I don't know, not impossible, but it looks like it should have to be like 2-3 important names, like for example Wavestar. I was thinking of Tim Blake that I just interviewed a month ago, and Manuel Getching, you know, Ashra.
Yes, yeah, I understand completely. It is a similar situation here in England because there is not much actual national radio play for this sort of music, and yet people hear this sort of music on TV, on documentaries, etc., etc., but it is not mainstream like the pop music. It is always difficult to get the people to hear the music. If they hear it, they like it, but getting enough people to make a concert viable is difficult even here.
It is so. I think that's why the festival is still the most gigs that we play, because then you'll get, if you've got 3 or 4 bands and each of those 3 or 4 bands can bring a number of fans in, then you've got a room full of people.
Of course, the festivals are usually all day from 12 o'clock noon, 1200 hours, up to 2300. So the one ticket, they get a lot of music for the one ticket.
Right.
I think that's why the festivals are more popular.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned him a while ago, Ron Boots' Groove Unlimited. There have been some reissues on that label. In No Ron Boots' own music that I really like. Could you tell us a little bit about that, Groove Unlimited, and the reissues of Wavestar and the music?
Well, Ron and I think Ron and Case, the guy I mentioned before, they were running the thing together, They formed Groove Unlimited, and they took over from Fritz Kauenberg, who ran Clem, the
Right.
original festival. And when we first played in 1990 at Clem in the Netherlands, which was the concert I mentioned earlier, and we were so well received, we were invited to headline in 91 and 92. And Ron said, that's unheard of. Nobody has ever played a festival 3 years, one after the other. So that's how well we were received.
That was fun.
But yeah, it was, yeah. And then who organised the Nijmegen one? It must have been Ron, because that was 98, weren't
I'm
it?
sure it was.
I think they organised another one in 98 in Nijmegen in the Netherlands. And that was a massive place. I think it held about 2,000 people. And I would say it was 3/4 full. Maybe, that sort of level. So there were about 1,500 people in there, and we had a great gig. It was fabulous.
One of the gigs we did in Holland, actually Paul McCartney came to see us.
Who was that one?
Was that? I thought it was Breda. Not Breda.
I read about that. He was pleased
Yeah.
with the music, I guess. He was very pleased.
Yeah.
Well, you know how we like to laugh. Well, Ron and Case, back then, we were always playing tricks on each other and making each other laugh. And when I think we had to move our equipment forward in the break. We were playing in the evening, and we had to move it forward. And you could imagine what that's like with all the wires and it was a pain, really. We didn't want to do it, but anyway, we said okay. And while I was arranging my things, Ron came up while on the stage. The audience had left for a break to eat, of course. And Ron said, "John, Paul McCartney is at the back of the stage and he wants to speak to you." So you can imagine what I said. I thought it was a joke. So I went, wow. I'm busy, I've got to do all this. And get away, go away. Then Case came up and he said, "John, Paul McCartney wants to speak to you. He's at the back of the stage with his daughter and all the people." And I said, "Ron's tried that already. It doesn't work. Go away." So Case went away, and both of them, both Ron and Case, big men, really big men, came to me, and one got hold of my arm there, and the other one, and they lifted me and took me round the back of the stage, and there's Paul McCartney and
wow.
Stella and the entourage. So my mouth went. Well, my guys, they were, my God. And I said to him, this is me. I said, "Oh, hello, Paul. It's nice. What a pleasure. Your hair's lasted longer than mine." And he laughed and laughed and laughed. It was just so fun. He was a great guy. He was really, really good. He was a really nice guy.
I can't imagine Paul McCartney listening to electronic music, the type you make. So what did he say anything about it?
No, we thought he'd come to see us in particular.
Okay.
But it turned out, do you remember the Maharishi?
Yes.
The Indian guy that they were all involved with?
Of course, yes.
Apparently, the Maharishi was living in the Netherlands. And I don't think he was very well in health.
Okay.
So they'd been to see him, and somehow they heard that these English guys were playing at this festival, right? And this is, we did not know this at the time. His people contacted Ron and said, Paul McCartney would like to come and see these English guys play. And Ron and Case thought that was me playing a joke on them. I only found that out 8 years later. It's a good job they didn't swear at him and tell him to go away.
Yeah, sure.
But it was good. It was really good. He was a nice guy. I said to him, we'll send you a couple CDs down. And he wrote me a beautiful letter back.
Excellent. Good.
Because I apologised in my initial letter. I said, I'm very sorry, I should have called you Sir Paul McCartney.
Sure, yeah.
And he said, it's okay, John. He says, you can call me anything but early in the morning. he was a great guy.
British humor again. Now, yeah. How did you mention Dave Warhand's contribution? May he rest in peace, to Wavestar today after so long.
It was. If I tell you that David was into more sequencing and modular type music, noises, shall we say. He had a big Digisound modular system. And when we first met, I, of course, was coming in with melodic things. And it just so happened that it merged together beautifully. David's sequencer, modular noises, and my melodic influence, it just gelled together. And David's wife said to me after maybe a year, she said, I'm so glad that you showed up, because all he did was swamp music. She called his modular sounds swamp music. I'll never forget that, and I could not stop laughing. I thought that was really funny.
It was amazing. That Digisound. Dave, he built it himself. He had built it himself from scratch, from the metal upwards. Built a huge modular system, and none of the other of us understood how it worked.
No,
we didn't have the first clue how it worked. In fact, he was using actual digital sequencing at that time.
At that time, yeah. Very early days,
way before anybody else was.
Yeah.
Did he ever make any
small?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I said he's got a small computer. Which you had to program in well, I'll say hex. Only programmers wouldn't, but you had to program it in numbers to get it to do anything. It was unbelievably
so complicated.
Complex. It really was. But he was the master of it.
Yeah, there was a little later on. Roland brought out the MC-202, which was a little small version of basically of the 101, but with a built-in sequencer. You could program a sequence of notes into it, and it had 2 channels, but you could not access them both at the same time. So Dave was so clever with electronics, he made something so that he had 2 of these units. So in effect, he could have 4 sequences of notes, but not all at the same time. And he made an interface that accessed all of them, and he made them drive his modular system, which had 4 voices. So then we could use all 4 sequences in sync at the same time.
That was how MOONWIND was done.
Yeah, in fact that was how the sequencing on MOONWIND was done. He was very, very clever with electronics. I mean, I know nothing about electronics,
Did he ever
Paul
make?
knows a little, but
Did he ever made a
Pardon?
solo? Did he ever have a solo project or solo albums? I don't think he did.
no.
No.
We're strictly as Wavestar. Yeah.
Okay.
I think. I mean, I'm speaking sort of from the outside, but I think John and Dave, they literally did fit each other perfectly.
Yeah. In
because
those days, yeah.
Dave didn't have the ability to produce a finished track, but
No.
he could get lots of ideas running. And you needed him for all the rhythmic and the sequencer ideas that actually gave something for your melodies to float across.
Yeah, exactly.
Well.
Dave knew about Tangerine Dream, and that was his influence, using tape effects, tape sequencers, tape delay, tape flanging. He even had a 2-track recorder, tape recorder, that he put a speed control on so that we could record music on his 4-track, bounce it down to the 2-track, and then re-record it but while adjusting the very fine speed, and that was called tape flanging. It's done electronically now, but Dave used to do it manually. It was absolutely brilliant. Absolutely, he was very, very clever, very, very clever guy. And of course, my melodic influences meshed, as Paul has just said.
Yeah.
So that's how it all started, really. And it was all through one advert in the music magazine.
Look at that. Now I'd like to share this image of a very good album, in my own opinion, that I played a lot on Futuro FM. This different stories and twisted tales, where I found this fantastic track called Twisted Tales, and I had the very lucky opportunity to play the 17 minutes during the day on a radio station. So that was quite unusual. So if you ever talk to Ron, yes, in fact, it would be interesting to have the chance to speak to Mr. Boots one day. Now,
I'll pass your details on. Yeah.
Great.
I'm sure in fact, he'll be busy at the moment because they're doing the first eLive festival for 2 years, and it is tomorrow.
Look at
so
that.
We will be very busy at the moment, but I will pass your details on. He'll be in touch.
Thank you. Great. Fantastic.
And of course, he will see this eventually.
Okay. How much do you care about labels like Electronic New Age, World Music New Age? Because your music has been tagged like all those and many more maybe through the years. Did you really care about the way people describe the music? Because I once had the chance to talk to Chick Corea here when he came to Chile. And I was asking, how do you make the music? How do you, find inspiration, etc., when you work with the electric band and then with the acoustic band? And he said, I don't understand the question. It's just more music. I thought, where do I go now?
Yeah.
Next question.
The media, they like to have what we call a pigeonhole. You know how you've got all your albums in the little squares behind you?
Yes.
Right. They like to put you in that little space or that little space, but it is difficult, if you see the modern music, like the dance music, they've stolen the word electronica.
Yeah.
The modern dance stuff is called so we have to be very careful if we say we do electronic music, because they expect dance and club music, because it's very similar. They've stolen the word, really.
The one thing we've always consciously tried to do with I can speak for my own solo music as well as yours, is or not try consciously to do, is not to censor ourselves for the sake of a label. There's a track on Night Winds that becomes, it's the Night Winds track that becomes orchestral
Yeah, and we've got one on the new one album, similar.
One on the new album where we've actually got harpsichord and and female voices.
And we've got medieval sounding parts, and then a great big orchestral part. We don't limit ourselves to, say, sequencing.
Doesn't matter.
We try to use all our influences that we've had over the years in the total music. Because the new album, when Ron in Holland, Netherlands, I keep saying Holland, it's the Netherlands. When Ron heard the tracks, I sent him a preview, and he said, "Expect the unexpected." That's what a lot of my stroke our fans say. We love your music because we never know what is coming next. And we don't do that consciously. It's not a plan. It just happens because we're of an age. We've been around for so long. We have many influences. So that's why the album tends to be quite varied and not the same thing one after the other.
By the way, before I forget, have you ever been offered the chance to make music for some documentaries, TV or film?
No, we would love to.
Yeah.
I've done a few bits for TV and for film and for theatre as well. I'll tell you one good story from that. I did one with my brother-in-law. It was called it's supposed to be a TV series, but it became a mini-series called Brides in the Bath, and it's based on a true story about a guy who was marrying ladies and then killing them for the insurance money, insuring them and killing them for the insurance money. Quite a creepy story.
Nice guy.
But our brief was to make it sound like a string quartet, and so we used samplers and synths to make it sound like a string quartet. And about a month after the TV program had been released, we got a call from another producer asking us if we could tell him which string quartet we'd use because he'd like to hire them.
Look at that.
That's how good it was.
And it was all synthesizers.
And where can
it's quite good.
Is it possible to hear that? Really. Can we hear that anywhere on YouTube or somewhere?
It's definitely. I think it's actually on YouTube, if I remember rightly. I think it's up on YouTube. Okay. Yeah, it's called Brides in the Bath.
I'm going to search for that.
See if you can find it.
Good.
And it was done for ITV.
Oh right, yeah, I remember you doing it. Yeah, I remember you doing that.
And we did one called Father Christmas and the Missing Reindeer, which I loved doing.
Oh, that I remember that. Paul told me about this.
Oh, beautiful.
And he said it's called. I said, what's it called? And he says Father Christmas and the Missing Reindeer. Right. And he said, he says, they want the sound of reindeer singing. How the hell do I do that? Anyway, he did, and it sounded fabulous. It was fabulous.
Creativity. Well, now the guitar versus synthesizers. Which one do you feel closer to at the moment of writing music, or are they both different? Complement. What was that? Oh.
It depends on the music. It depends on the music. Every instrument has its place.
Look at that. Beautiful.
Every instrument has its place.
That's the magic instrument.
Like that.
But yeah. No, it depends. Like for instance, MOONWIND.
Yeah.
Would not have sounded the same had I played it on a synth or any other sound. It just asked for the guitar.
Okay.
So no, they have equal places, as does everything else. Yeah.
And do you Paul and John, where do you see yourselves? I mean, where do you feel more comfortable? Performing, writing music, both?
But both. But they both have their place. But playing live, because we don't have any what you might call support team, although we have friends who help us, but we don't have any official roadies to do all the heavy lifting. So for us, For me, it's hard work.
It is hard work.
It really is hard work, because if we do a festival, we may be very fortunate and get in the night before to set up. Sometimes you have to show up on the morning of the festival, set up, sound check, play, and after you have played, strip it all down and get it back in the whatever vehicle that has brought it. That is hard work. That is really hard
I think
work.
in terms of what
But it's great. It's fabulous to do. It's terrific to play live to an audience. We love it.
In terms of what we're comfortable with, I wouldn't say playing live is comfortable, but it's
No.
enjoyable.
Oh, it's so enjoyable because
Enjoyable.
you get that immediate rapport or reaction from the audience, and normally you are quite close to them. They say, you do the talking, Johnny, because you're good at it, right? And so I talk to them, and we get that feedback from the audience.
And John is a very natural performer. He very naturally stands at the front of a stage, and
I don't find that a problem.
he gets a connection with the audience, which it's something that I'm in awe of, because I just couldn't do that.
He says, no, I can't talk to them. No, I can't talk to them. You do that. You're good at that.
You do that. I'm a studio guy.
Paul doesn't look shy. She doesn't look like a shy person, so I wonder why. Maybe.
No, he's not. You get to know him.
This is a true story. I once did. I got the one and only chance as a solo musician to do one solo concert at the Derby Guildhall, and they set me a stage mic up so I could talk to the audience between songs. And I just started the concert and I never spoke once.
Never spoke once.
I just ran through the whole gig. I just couldn't do it. I really suffered from stage fright at that time. I'm not so bad now, but
Yeah.
I'd rather him do it.
As
To the front.
I think the audience. I mean, I'm going to say this from my personal point of view. I think that most people like to have some communication with the artist. I remember when Elton John came here for the first time back in 1992, I don't know when, he didn't say one single word during the whole concert. I was so disappointed because I love his music. I don't know why. He just played, and it felt like he was just wanted to leave. He just did his show and then he left. He said nothing, and maybe say goodbye, but it was quite disappointing. So it's always good to have this, to get to know a little bit more the artist, to see what things he talks about. If he has a good sense of humor, as you do. Because you do, don't you? You have a sense of humor.
Yeah. I do. Yeah. We at the end of any concert, I always say, thank you for coming, and get home safely, and get home okay, and travel safely, and they like it. I mean, we did one concert, and I think we were going to do an encore, right? And one guy in the front shouted, "Chase the evening!"
Yeah.
Chase the evening, which is 19 minutes. And I just said for him, I said, "You must be joking." And of course they all laughed.
Yeah. You said to him, "Chase us next time. You'd rather chase us next time." Yeah. Well, I would have shouted the same. I would have. Yeah. Do you often play the track or not anymore? Not any longer. Do you still? No.
Have you ever played that live?
We did it. We did it once, I think, at Stafford in either 1986 or 1987. Because of the way it was recorded, it was
difficult.
It was difficult to because I usually do the lead line in sort of ad-lib style. The guys know
I'm out of time.
Shut up. I never play the same thing twice.
True.
Because I'm not clever enough to. So when we did Chase the Evening, it was a big long track, and I probably did it in one take, or maybe did it in two halves. But it was all ad-lib, and we managed to do it. but it was difficult. We might have another look at that.
I was just going to say, Christian, if we come to South America to play a gig, I'm going to get him to play Chase the Evening.
I mean, if you ever come here, it would be disappointing, to say the least, not to listen to the track live. So maybe you can make a single version,
okay.
like a 7-minute version. It could be a good idea to make.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah.
Now, talking about South America,
Oh.
yeah, please do. Talking about South America, I have to say, besides Wavestar's Kabbalah and Chase the Evening, Location 43 from Evolution and the album title track Evolution were really very important in the top playlist of Futuro FM back in the early till the mid-90s.
Really?
Yeah, I played them a lot. So have you ever had any feedback from other Latin American radio programmers or from other distant latitudes or reviewers?
We've had comments from all over the world, really, but I don't think we've had any from South America.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. But you have to remember, I'm very old, and like I keep telling him, the RAM chips in here are full. There is no room for anything else.
No, look at that. And I want to go back to the days of Andy Garibaldi's Lotus Records distribution service. For me, it was a real discovery, like lightning and thunder effect on my own search.
Yeah.
And then my radio shows, as well as the Freemancy's mail order services back in the mid-80s and CD services then. How much do you think these music fans and reviewers of the music, what I call the music of the minorities, in fact, on Radio Futuro, the typical motto was the music for the big or immense minority, yes. Do these people enhance the possibility of making and eventually becoming part of the scene, making more music?
Oh yeah. They were a terrific help, all of them, in the early, especially in the early days. Like I said about Dennis and Jeanette, we wouldn't be where we are without Dennis and Jeanette and Andy Garibaldi, who did a lot of the distribution especially for Inkeys and other independent musicians. No, they were great. They were really good.
Yeah.
We always appreciated that.
Now, some of the people watching these, Paul and John, may not, I mean, from the community that I have on Facebook, La Inmensa Minoría, the immense minority, the community, maybe they are not familiar yet with Wavestar II. How did Wavestar II come to exist? Because now you've been working with Paul Ward, and Stephen Whitland, I guess. Yeah, not many people may remember that Paul was in charge of the engineering of MOONWIND. Yeah. So how do things happen these days? How did Wavestar II came to existence?
Well,
can I take this one?
Yes, of course.
Sure.
John went on a tour of the British Isles.
A what?
You went on a tour of the British Isles, didn't you?
Oh, I had a break from the music. Yeah, sorry.
He disappeared to Scotland for quite a few years, and I never came to Scotland when you were there.
No,
we kind of kept in touch, but because he was so far away, we just didn't work together. And then you went down onto the south coast of England.
Yeah, the southwest. Yeah.
When was that? 2003? No.
Yeah, we went to Scotland in 2003.
Right.
And then my friend who I moved up there with, he died in 2011. So my niece and her husband had come to live with us by building an extra part on the house in about, I think it was 2005 or 6. But Jack passed away in 2011. And my niece said to me after Jack had died, what do you think about moving? Because we are expecting a new grandchild. Their son and his wife were expecting it, and we would maybe like to be nearer, because we were a long way away. It was 360 miles. I don't know, what's that in kilometres? 500 kilometres up in Scotland. So I said, yeah, sure, no problem. So instead of instead of I felt at the time I wasn't too old for another adventure. So I've always loved the southwest of England. So they came back to Yorkshire, which is roughly where we are now, but 50 miles further north. And I went down to the southwest of England because I loved it down there. And oddly enough, Ron and his wife and some good friends of ours from the Electronica days who lived down there, called John and Linda Palmer, Ron was coming to stay in Michael Shipway's holiday home in Devon. So John and Linda said we all ought to meet at Johnny Dyson's house. So they came just not too far, and they came down from them. We had a great day together. It was great to see them all, because I hadn't seen them for a long time, of course, because we were in Scotland. And when I finally decided to come back to Sheffield in 2016, Ron said, "How can you leave that sea view, that beautiful view of the sea in Devon? Oh, how can you do that?" And I said, "Well, it's circumstance, Ron. Things change." So I came back up to Sheffield, and as you know, in the sort of 90s, after Surreal-to-Real, the label packed up, we disbanded that. I'd done John Dyson and Friends for the concerts. So when I got back to Sheffield and we were working on the album Night Winds with Paul and Stefan, I didn't think it was fair or honest to call it a John Dyson album. So because these two guys had played for the original Wavestar way back, I decided to call the musicians, the band, Wavestar II, like the Roman II, because I didn't want people to think I was disregarding their input to the album, because they have made these last two albums what they are. It would not have been the same album had I done it on my own solo. So that is why now we are Wavestar II, the second version of Wavestar.
The Nightwinds album actually started. It was I went to visit John when he was down in the south, south of England,
yeah.
And it's when you first played me some of the music you've been working on.
Yeah, I'd started writing again. Yeah.
And I could hear the potential in it.
Yeah.
And I just felt that
there was an album in there.
I needed to push him.
Yeah, he needed to push me. Yeah, he's very bossy. He's very bossy.
And the music was superb, but it just needed a few things to make it really truly come to life.
Which is what happened. As I said, we work as a team now. I might come up with the idea, and then these guys put their input into it, and it makes it into much more than it was. It works. It works. We hope.
Anyway. It does totally. For what I've heard.
Separated it for the latest album.
We had managed to record parts of 2, the new one, but nothing was finished. And then lockdown happened, so I was working with Paul online, coming up with his suggestions, and then we used to send Stefan a rough mix, and Stefan would say, "Oh, I can hear this," or "Let's put that in there." So we still worked together, but not in the same place. It was strange having to do it like that. We made it through. We made it through okay.
Right. And does Stefan have his own music and records?
Yeah, Stefan. It's Whitlan.
Yes, Whitlan. Yes.
Not Whitland. No D. It's Whitlan. Whitlan.
All right.
WHITLAN.
Right.
Whitlan.
Oh, but I think I took this from your web page. No, it's
Oh,
impossible.
he's probably wrong on there. Slap.
Yes, please
Finger
do.
trouble.
Okay, no problem. Now,
I'm
yeah,
trying to organise a new web page. I keep that's
good.
one of the next tasks, but I can't do it really. But we've been discussing it. I need a new website.
Mhm.
So anyway, we'll
Yeah,
get there.
you should take advantage of the social networks like Instagram and all that because it's really working. It's really amazing. I'm not a fan of that, but people
No.
these days fall easily on that chain of, they get the
Yeah, yeah.
news, everything goes automatically. So it's quite useful, I think.
Yeah, I find Facebook quite useful.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Now, let's talk a little bit about record labels. You just mentioned Surreal-to-Real with Anthony Thrasher, I think it was, for
Yeah.
Evolution, the first album, the first solo album, and
Yeah.
also Sodet Hall. Is that the name of the label?
Yeah, that is.
That's an English joke.
That's an English joke. That's an English joke.
Can you explain a little bit about the joke? What's the joke about?
Yeah.
Good luck, John.
Good luck. Well, okay.
Maybe a soft version of the explanation could be
yes.
acceptable.
It sort of means, depending on how we say it, it means blast to everything.
All right.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
There is another word that begins with F, but this is
Okay.
polite. This is the polite, gentle version.
Good.
Yeah.
So why does it happen? Because you said that you went silent. You didn't go to the studio in some time. I mean, you stopped making music. I thought that maybe you were feeling not happy at all about things that happened with the labels and all that.
In a way, yes. I mean, Anthony was. You remember I mentioned the early electronica festivals in Sheffield.
Yes.
Anthony was also working on the organisation with Stefan because they were on the Students' Union Entertainment Committee. It was held at the Sheffield University. So that's how we knew Anthony at the same time as Stefan. And then when the American label Audion company, or the whole company, went into administration, I mean, I never received any money for MOONWIND at all. Nothing. Whether Dave did is another story. We won't go into that here, but I don't think so. But we never got anything for that album. So Anthony thought that wasn't really good. So he said, "Shall we form our own label, and you can put your solo album out on it in 1989?" Whatever. I think it was 89. Evolution came out, or whatever. Anyway, whatever. And it was okay. And then. And I don't mean any disrespect to Anthony, but one of the agreements was that he could use the money that we made from the first couple of albums to buy a digital editing machine, which would enable him to do work for other people, other artists. I think it was 89, that one. So the agreement was he could do that because he was thinking of leaving the BBC, who he was working for, on the technical side. And it turned out that I'm trying to think whether it was would it be Evolution or Aquarelle? It was round about the same time. I don't know whether it was Evolution or Aquarelle. He was working with Leo Sayer.
Oh.
He was editing Leo Sayer's album, and it turned out that he'd spent that much time working on this Leo Sayer project that the manufacturing details for my next album, right? Which we were going to release at the festival in the Netherlands, got delayed, and we had to pick my album up from the CD plant on the way to the ferry to the festival in Holland, and I was really angry about that, really angry, because the deal was that he could do what he wanted independently as long as it didn't affect surreal-to-real production. And of course, it went from bad to worse. And the money from the albums was going into his independent projects and not coming back for all this stuff, into the studio, because the tape machine we were using at the time was nearly worn out with all the albums that we'd done on it. So I got a bit angry, I admit, either rightly or wrongly, but we said, let's call it a day. And he agreed. It was reasonably amicable, friendly. We just called it a day. And that's when I started doing the Sod It All independent thing. But
some people, John and Paul, here watching this, and from the group La Inmensa Minoría, the immense minority, may not remember, but Audion Records, that was a label where I discovered great musicians like Neil Nave, Jim Bartz.
They had some big names on there. Yeah,
Gary Hughes, even Wendy Carlos, and I think the ex-Genesis member Anthony Phillips.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
His release was about the same time as Moonwind, I think.
Look at that. Now, how did the story go? I know that you were very happy with the story on Audion Records, and I was surprised, really. Do you know what happened with the label? Did it? I think it finished after a few years. It didn't last long.
No, we did Moonwind in '87, I think it was.
Yes.
And it was only like a year later, or a year and a half later, when they went into administration. So we were delighted to be able to do the album for a USA release, etc., on a well-known label, a really well-known label that had a great deal of respect. But at the end of the day, we never got paid for it. So your guess is as good as mine. That's why Anthony suggested we do our own label, so that in effect this couldn't happen again.
Do you remember how
it's happened again, but for different reasons, shall we say?
Do you remember how many copies they used to press, or at least of your album?
No, we spoke to a couple of DJs in the USA, especially one in California, who had got his finger pretty much on the pulse, as we say, and we asked him to ask around, because it got a terrific review. In fact, in the Audion, which CD magazine? I think you said that our review was next to
Yes's
Big Generator album.
Yeah.
Our review, and this, when you think where Yes had recorded their album, etc., it got out of 10, it got a 5 and a 6 for music and production, and our Moonwind review was next to it, and it got 8 and 9. And we'd recorded it in an attic room in Sheffield. We couldn't believe it. This guy knew about all this, and he said, he says, you are an unknown English band. He says, but you are on the Audion label, and Larry Fast is very well known over here. Audion is part of Gem Records, which was a big company based in New Jersey. He says, 50 or 60,000. And I said, really? He says, yeah. He says, it's a big market here, you know. And it was. I mean, back then, I think in England, there were 190 radio stations. and in the USA there was 11,500. That was the difference in the market. So it's quite possible it did sell that many, but we never got paid for it.
We'll never truly know. I know
We'll
that
never truly know.
I was travelling around America quite a few times over those early years, and I saw Moonwind in many record shops.
Oh, I forgot that.
Yeah, we saw
Yeah, I've forgotten that.
But we'll never know the truth. But
No,
no money ever arrived here.
no. And like today, we know the world's moved on, but the streaming services, as we all know, are good for the people that want to use them, but it's killed the physical CD market. Yeah. And what I won't mention any streaming services names, but we all know who they are. The amount they pay me for one usage, one stream, right? I would, to buy this, just this one, I would need 3.5 million streams to pay for one synthesizer.
Yeah, it's absurd.
Crazy. And then our fellow musicians say, "Hey John, have you seen this new synthesizer? Are you going to get one?" No.
Not yet.
Unless Roland or Korg kindly donate one to Johnny. Yeah.
Was it printed in the record? I mean, was it printed in England? I don't know. My Journey.
Moonwind.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Moonwind. Yes.
The original one was all. We recorded it here and mastered it here, but we sent the master tapes over the stereo master, shipped it over to the States for them to check, and then they produced the master tape over there. Yeah, it was an American album. Yeah.
And are you planning to reissue that one or some of the records on vinyl? I mean, on vinyl these days.
Oh lordy, no. The costs are horrendous.
Okay.
And because it's been out, it's been reissued 5 times?
Yes.
So yeah, it must be a good album.
I'm still trying to get it right.
There must be something. Yeah, there must be something about it. Now the compilation Out of Time from I think 1997 seems to be important in your discography.
In terms of what?
I think it contains some unreleased tracks or something.
Oh, Out of Time.
Yes, Out of Time.
Out of Time. Yeah, that is things that we were working on before Dave and I split up because of all the Audion problems and things. So people kept asking us, "Isn't there any more? Is there any more? Is there any more?" Oh God! So we got all the bits that were lying around and said, "Look, this is all there is. There is no more," and that is the Out of Time album. So whatever. Oh, but we did find on the Moonwind, the definitive edition, we had two more or less complete tracks, and we did not put those on Out of Time because we were in the process of having Moonwind reissued again, but we decided to put those two sort of complete tracks on the Moonwind, the definitive edition, and because it made the time something like 88 minutes, it was too much for one CD album. And of course there wasn't enough to do a double album, but we didn't want to add any new material because it wasn't done at the same time. So we decided to just do the definitive edition as a download. We would have liked to do a CD, but it was impossible because of the length of the tracks. So we compromised.
And how is Bandcamp doing?
We were constantly asked, Isn't there any more? Isn't there any more? Isn't there any more? No, no.
How is Bandcamp working for you?
Oh, Ron is dealing with it for us. Ron is dealing with Bandcamp for us. Under the Groove pages, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's working okay as far as I know.
For music, yeah, for music fans like myself, it's a great gate. I mean, a window. I mean, to discover new artists.
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it is fairer. It is much fairer.
Okay.
To the musician, Bandcamp. I'm a fan of Bandcamp myself. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, what can you tell us about the European Southern Observatory that I think you're related to in some way?
Again, that sort of came. I don't know how it happened. That's
the story of John's life.
I've no idea how these things happened. I don't know how the music happens. I've no idea. I just live here. I just make the coffee.
Yeah.
I eat cookies.
Yeah, and cookies. Yeah, no, I don't make those. I buy those. But anyway, no, somehow I don't know how it happened. I did not contact them. They contacted me. Whether it was one of the fans who told them, said, try this, I don't know. But they contacted me. I sent them a couple of albums across, and they use it on their... They used like Voyager and various songs like that. And they use it on their website for films that they do, information and what they've found out about the universe. And they've used quite a bit of it on their short films, information films. And I was quite proud. And it just, they said, we will put an acknowledgement on the little video, which they did. They were very, very good. And then after a few years, I had a very nice email from one of the ladies there, probably in the administration side. And she said, we've had a meeting, John, and we have several people who've contributed music to our website, and we feel as though we ought to acknowledge them more. So we have decided to officially create ESO Music Ambassadors. So I am a music ambassador for
Look at that.
Well, I think that's lovely because I love
Congrats.
the work that they do. Yeah, that happened. That was a happy accident again. My life is a happy accident. But one of the best accidents was meeting up with this guy.
If we ever figure out what we're doing, we're in trouble.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we have problems if we ever figure out why it works. Yeah.
Now, to close this nice fun encounter, I wonder if you these days or recently you have any interactions with people, like I suppose they are from there, Radio Massacre International, Redshift, and obviously ARC, Ian Boddy and Mike Schreiber. Do you ever meet them in festivals or?
Yeah, CC, yeah, occasionally, yeah. I communicate with Ian regularly on Facebook, and Paul Nagel, and all the other. It's like a family. We all sort of know about each other, even if we don't meet up regularly. We all know about each other and what we're all doing at the moment. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Most of them are great guys. Yeah.
Okay, what happens? This is the last thing. What happens with you when you're not recording? I don't know how many hours in a week or a month you spend recording or making music. What do you like to do? How do you relax? Do you have any hobbies? Do you like movies?
We have a special cupboard. No. Let's be fair. I mean, he knocked a lot the first few weeks he was in there. we made a little hatch. We can pass water and food through. He's been no trouble since then.
Nice set of hobbies. Come on.
Go on, tell about your trains.
Yeah. I was waiting for that one. I'll tell them about my trains. I'll tell you about all their holidays. They've been all over the world.
You better don't. I'm afraid.
No, I like railways, but
Okay.
the old ones, the steam railways.
Mhm.
And I have a model railway in the garage, right? It needs a lot of work. Yeah. So before winter comes, I have been concentrating on that. We had to get the album finished, produced, distributed to the guys, and it was if I say it was a relief, I don't mean that in a bad way, but it was a major piece of work getting that album out with the lockdown and everything. So I've just this past couple of weeks or so, and for the next couple of weeks, I'm concentrating on the model railway because I haven't done anything on it for about 4 or 5 months. So that's that. And I have a family, even though I'm not married. I have relatives here in my home city, so they take up a bit of time as well. And then people like yourself and the fans and the music contacts. I mean, the other day I took my sister to see my cousin here in the city, and it was like 4 hours, 4.5 hours. I came home and there were 35 messages to answer. So everybody thinks I have this megastar lifestyle, but I don't. Shut up! It's you that has the megastar lifestyle. No, you tell them about what you've been doing. He's much cleverer than me.
I don't know about that.
No, you
I work on music for a lot of other acts. I mean, during lockdown, I work with a band based in South Africa called Gutter. Been doing some work with them.
How do you spell that?
Sorry?
How do you spell that?
Gutter, Gutter.
Okay.
And there are some of their tracks, some of the tracks from the album. The album is called, I think it's Shoes, Ships and Sealing Wax. The album's called. That was released during lockdown. There are some tracks on YouTube.
Okay.
Definitely some tracks on YouTube. So I did a lot of work for them. I also worked with a guitarist, a guy called Gordon Giltrap.
Ah.
If you're a proggy, you'll know Gordon.
Sure.
I've done a lot of work with Gordon. We've done one album together, which came out a few years ago, called The Last of England. We've got another album that will be launched in March. That is going to be called Scattered Chapters. That's the next one. And it looks like we have the making of a third album, actually, with some of the work that we've got. So it's likely there'll be a third Giltrap Ward album as well. But I'm working with a lot of artists, and I've had the chance to work with some fabulous artists. I mean, we've got Ian Mosley from Marillion playing on the new Giltrap Ward album on Scattered Chapters, which it was a fantastic opportunity. To get someone of that caliber to play drums for us. So, and he's just one. There are several names on there. I won't go through them all. So for me, music is my life. It's practically all that I do from the moment I wake until the moment the eyes sleep.
I think you could, without being silly now, Paul is almost 99% a professional musician producer, whereas I'm just little Johnny. But he's a great guy, and I owe him a great deal because all the people that know Wavestar and John Dyson, I have a friend in Italy, right, and he thinks I am world famous. Like McCartney or Elton John, and I say it's not like that. It is not like that. But he's working. Shut up. He's working with some well-known people now, and Gordon Giltrap was kind enough to say, "Paul, you've done me so much work. Do you think John would like me to play a bit on his album?" And I said, Wow! Yes, yes.
Yeah,
So
it's,
he plays some acoustic guitar on the last track, I think it is, on the new album.
is it Paragon?
Paragon,
Paragon,
yeah.
yeah.
And I was very grateful. He's a nice guy, Gordon. He's a really nice guy. So I was very honoured that he even suggested that to be on our album. That's really nice to know. But it's all good fun, which it should be.
By the way, now that you mentioned them, Marillion are very, very, very popular here in Chile, same as Iron Maiden. Well, they even have a record live in Chile, and Marillion had a Marillion weekend here in Santiago like 3-4 years ago. And I'm on the DVD. They interview me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because somebody, a fan of the guys, told him that there was somebody related to Futuro FM that used to be the music director, and he knew a lot, and he started playing Marillion back in the mid 80s here, which is true. So they contacted me, and then they said, well, why don't you come around and we can ask you a few questions? I'll say, how much? How much? I said, oh, no.
Turn the table. Turn the tables.
Yeah. And other band that I really love, and I made contact directly with back in the mid 80s as well, with Pendragon. Nick Barrett and company, Pendragon. They really
I love their stuff.
Yeah, they're really big here. So well, it's been so much fun and so interesting to have this conversation, John and Paul. Thank you so much for the time. I hope it's not the last time. Maybe we and Paul could have an extra conversation sometime about prog and other things. And when a new record comes out,
thinking of doing an album, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've constantly encouraged Gordon to go back to his prog roots, and I think I'm starting to succeed. So the next album will be heading more in that direction, I think.
Can you mention a few favorite bands or musicians? You, John and Paul, what do you listen to if you listen to music? If you ever listen to music, you like classical music, for example?
Oh, I like all music except, if I don't want to be unkind, but except modern jazz. I like traditional jazz, but all music. I'm not keen on rap. I just don't understand rap.
We are too. But do you like Pat Metheny, for example? Pat Metheny group, the fusion jazz that he makes? No.
Ennio Morricone, the Dollar Films.
Okay.
Fantastic music. We are big fans of Ennio Morricone, and lots of classical music, all sorts of music. Okay. Even the Baroque, medieval music.
Sure.
You can hear on the new album the influences of coming out there as well.
Yeah, when I was at school, some of the stuff I studied was four-part harmony and madrigals and some medieval music. So some of my influences come directly from there.
You can hear that influences on the new album.
And obviously, I mean, some of the modern prog like Stephen Wilson and Porcupine Tree. I love some of that stuff.
Pineapple Thieves.
I've not heard much of their stuff. I must hear more. I have got some. I will. That comes recommended. I'll listen to more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love all that kind of stuff. I mean, what was the last track that really hit me between the eyes? Oh, Drive Home, Stephen Wilson.
Well, you're marvelous. Yeah.
Oh wow! Yeah. When I first heard that track, wow, that hit me straight.
Well, we've had the chance to have him like 5 times here in Chile, and I was really, really impressed to hear the sound, the amplification. They use the 4 channels and all that in the watchmaker. Wow, that was like, what is this? Because not even when Alan Parsons came here, and I had the honor of meeting him and interviewing him back in '95, the sound with Stephen Wilson was really jaw-dropping, I have to say. Yeah. And
I'd love to try. It's something that actually we've discussed a few times, actually doing a quadraphonic concert. And just trying that out. I mean, it would be a lot of work, but it would be fun. I think at some point we're gonna.
Some people will really appreciate that. Yes, sure.
Would it have to be in a reasonably large space?
No, not really. No.
I was just thinking of the audience. Like, would they just get like part 3 louder than part 1?
There are ways and means, but.
Right.
We'll go for it.
He knows.
Technology department.
Well, I hope that you go on making the great music you've been making for so long,
Thank you.
John Paul. Thanks again for the time. And I hope that we are going to keep in contact. Thanks very much for the files that you sent. And I'm waiting for the postman now. So
Yeah.
thanks. So
Thanks, Christian.
yeah, I'm going to send you this video to your email if you want
Okay,
to
that's
keep
great.
it in your files. Now I'm going to ask you to for an ID sort of thing for my
Yeah.
Facebook community, but I'm going to stop the recording now. So thanks everyone that you've been watching us and this gentleman with all this interesting information. See you again soon.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.